Bodying in soccer often involves shoulder charging and shoulder tackling. I'm going to cover rules on it, how to do it, and how to practice it. Understand that some leagues have a no charge rule, and this is usually in really young leagues as well as non-competitive older leagues. However, according to the United States Soccer Federation, there is such a thing as a fair charge in soccer. A fair charge is considered shoulder to shoulder with your elbow against your side on the side of your body that's making contact with the opposition. Each player must have at least 1 foot on the ground and both must be working to gain possession of the ball. The amount of force allowed is usually relative to the age and the amount of experience, but make sure your force isn't overly excessive. Understand that whether there is excessive force or not is only determined by the referee of that game. Excessive force usually results from a player sprinting at full speed and shoulder charging and bodying a player that's standing still. However, a player's natural abilities like their speed, strength, height, and weight all differ between players. This may result in one of the players ending up on the ground even though there is no foul committed. Referees are not required to make sure that the larger, faster player takes it easy on their smaller opponent. A fair shoulder charge can be directed at the back of the player's shoulder if they are shielding the ball. However, it cannot be done dangerously and cannot be done to the middle of their back along their spine. If you are ever directly checked in the middle of your back, just fall over when they check you because you're going to get a foul called. Also, your arms cannot push off and you cannot hold your opponent. However, you can use your arms for balance. Here are some tips to consider when shoulder tackling, and could you give this video a like? Tip number 1 on the shoulder check in soccer is to make sure to flex your muscles. Bring your elbow to your side and flex your shoulder and arm before going in to make contact. Tip number 2 on the shoulder tackle soccer move is that momentum matters. Standing still reduces your momentum and makes it harder to win, so make sure you have a few steps at least of momentum prior to going into that shoulder charge to ensure you win it. However, remember that you can't use too much force if the other player is just standing still. Tip number 3 on the shoulder check soccer move is to lean into it. Leaning over a bit when doing a shoulder tackle will lower your center of gravity and make it easier for you to push them off the ball. Also, add in that few step run up when leaning in a bit in order to ensure that you're able to knock them off the ball. Tip number 4 on how to body someone in soccer is to follow through. I also played hockey for 11 years growing up, and it took me a long time to figure out why my body checks were so weak. It was because I wasn't following through. Just like when shooting a driven shot where you strike through the ball and land past the ball, you need to make sure that you drive through your defender with your shoulder. Don't just stop your force when you make contact. Only stop shoulder charging after you have the advantage when trying to gain possession of the ball. Pro tip, pick your battles wisely. Try to shoulder tackle players that are your size or smaller. Preferably smaller. I speak from experience here. I'm 6 feet tall and 195 pounds, and I have only an okay win percentage, maybe 50-50, against players that are at least 20 pounds heavier than myself. However, I can't think of a single time that I lost a shoulder charge battle with a player that was smaller in size. By the way, I'm Dylan Joseph, trainer and #1 best-selling Amazon author. Now let's work on a shoulder charge soccer drill to work on your bodying in soccer that's called penned in. However, I don't advise too much practicing of shoulder checking. It can definitely damage a player's confidence relative to their peers, and it can lead to an injury such as a shoulder dislocation. So grab some cones and make a 4-yard by 4-yard square and put 3 or 4 players inside. Stand on the corner and pass the ball in to a random player while starting to count out loud. If that player can maintain possession for 5 seconds and then pass that ball back to the person that played it to them, they earn a point. If the player with the ball is body checked off or tackled off the ball and the ball goes out of bounds, then that round is done. But if another player gains possession of the ball, then they try to hold it for 5 seconds and pass it back to the person that played it in. This teaches the player with the ball to be able to shield the ball and absorb shoulder charges and shoulder tackles from the 2 other players in the box. If you set up this drill and you're not seeing enough contact between the players, then make the square smaller. Or avoid missing out on how to prevent the other team from scoring by grabbing the book that I've written, Soccer Defending, using the link, or subscribe to watch my videos first.